All right. Hello. Welcome to United Astronomy Clubs of New Jersey. Once again, we're back on site in Jenny Jump State Park in Hope, New Jersey. So, while I see there's a few people who are still need to file down, I want to welcome you guys all here and encourage you to check out our website, uacnj.org. It's where you're going to find a list of all our upcoming talks, as well as talks we've done in the past, information on our member clubs, and all about our mission here to bring astronomy and science to as many people as we can. If you are ever stuck in on a rainy day or just can't make it out, do feel free to like and subscribe on our YouTube and Twitch channels. But because that is right, we live stream this every Saturday. So like I said, you can't make it up here, or you're feeling under the weather with nothing better to do on a Saturday. Do follow us there, hop in chat, say hi. In addition, you can follow us on our social media pages, our Facebook, Instagram. We have a Discord channel as well, and you'll see all our upcoming events. We have various fun articles that are posted, and again, we have links to all our member clubs posts as our member club's Facebook pages as well. So, with that comes the safety briefing for all of you who are actually here in person. As always, if you need to use the bathroom, that is in the back of the tent to my left, your right. Also, after the presentation, or even during, I do suggest you check out our museum area and a little gift shop there. Unfortunately, if you need anything from the gift shop, that'll have to wait till after the presentation because, once again, they have denied me the right to be in two places at once. Yeah, I know, very disappointing. When we do go to leave here, we are using our headlights because we do not like getting run over, and you also probably do not like getting run over. That is a very small subset of the population that probably enjoys that. If we have flashlights, although I've heard the moon is supposed to be very moon and bright tonight, do keep those flashlights pointed towards the ground because we don't need to accidentally blind people. With that, tonight's presentation is all about accidentally blinding people with light pollution, because it is light pollution and what you can do to stop the spread. This presentation is given by Mark Zdziarski. Mark was a geologist and lab and field technician in the Earth and Environmental Sciences Department at the New Jersey City University, and now he does a similar role at the College of Staten Island. He was also, at one point, the president of North Jersey Astronomical Group, and which is one of the UACNJ member clubs, and he's currently a volunteer observer here at Jenny Jump to tell us all about this. That, Mark.
Let me see.
Far away.
There we go. Perfect. Thank you. Technical difficulties. Okay. So yes, my name is Mark Zdziarski. I'm environmental geologist at the College of Staten Island. I'm also in the Earth and Environmental Sciences department there. I'm a member of the International Dark Sky Association. Now it has been renamed Dark Sky International. I'm also a member of Amateur Astronomers Incorporated, North Jersey Astronomical Group, and I'm an observer here at UACNJ. You'll see me later on tonight in one of the observatories, matter of fact. Speaking of being two places at once, right? So, how do we define artificial light pollution? It's basically any light that is created by human beings during nighttime hours. This screen is artificial light pollution. So there was a new study out, matter of fact, this year, that over the past 5 to 7 years, light pollution has increased at a much faster rate than originally expected. It's 9.6% every year now since about 2015. Before that, it was only a couple percent. And there are reasons for that. We'll get into that. Um, so it interferes greatly with us viewing the night sky, looking at galaxies and nebula and things of that nature. Um, so humans and wildlife are also affected by light pollution in various ways, and we'll get into that momentarily. So first thing we're going to look at here is the Bortle light pollution scale. It is a semi-arbitrary scale, given it what becomes obscured with more light pollution. So with one being the best and excellent dark sky site with next to no light pollution at all, so you're basically in the middle of nowhere, all the way up to Bortle 8, 9, which is inner city sky, which would be like if you're in the middle of Jersey City, Staten Island, Manhattan, for instance. So there is a difference, and you can see the background sky as a general example of how it gets obscured and obliterated the more light pollution there is. So it does affect deep sky objects more than planets. You can, in the middle of Manhattan, you can point your telescope at Saturn tonight, and you'll get a very similar view that you will get here. However, if you were to do that in the city or very close to the city with something like the Orion Nebula, what you see down here is something that I used to see back when I lived in Montclair, which is a Bortle 8 sky. It's like the second to the worst. So up here at Jenny Jump, we're on the border of Bortle 4 and 5 right now, and there's a huge difference of what the Orion Nebula looks like through an eyepiece in this site versus living in the city. There's a lot more you can see, and why is that? Well, the light scatters off the air molecules, other particles, and basically reduces the contrast to the point where you can't see anything. Anything that's opaque, rather. So here's light pollution. Yes, that's been getting worse in the 1950s, 1970s, 97, and this was the projection for 2025. This map was made about 10 years ago. We're currently waiting for the revised light pollution map to come out now. The ones we're using are from 2015 currently, and it's definitely gotten worse since that time. And the colors do mean something. The blacker areas obviously are darker, and the red and white areas are the places that are have suffered from the worst light pollution. So this is the 2015 map I was telling you about, and so you can see the western, and I almost were right by on the Continental Divide here, right? You can see a huge difference in light pollution. So you can see most of the population is centered on the eastern side of the United States here. And the I-95 corridor, you can see quite plainly right here. Michigan, Florida, all well lit. And we center in on New Jersey, and so this little scale to the right here, where it's black, it's in Bortle 1, and there's like 3 different degrees of white here, and it's Bortle 7, 8, 9. Those you can see anywhere near New York City is bright. The entire state of New Jersey is light polluted, for instance. But out here in Jenny Jump at UACNJ, you can see there's a lot less light. So we're in the yellow here, which is right on the Bortle 4 area. So what can you see in the Bortle 4 sky that you can't see in a Bortle 9 sky? Well, during the summer, even last week, for instance, if there's no moisture in the atmosphere and the moon isn't out, you will see a little bit of the Milky Way, particularly directly overhead. Tonight we might not see it because of the moon, but if you come on a moonless night, you will see the Milky Way a little bit here. Now, not like in the Adirondacks or Cherry Springs in Pennsylvania, but for New Jersey, it's about as good as it gets. So it's one of the main reasons why people travel 30, 50 miles just to come here to do some observing on a public night. So one of the things that obliterates deep sky objects is sky glow. Now, sky glow a few years ago used to be more of a reddish color, and that was mostly from sodium vapor or fluorescent lamps. And so they kind of burned more in the red area of the light spectrum. And a lot of our astronomy filters at that time were tuned to that. So they would basically, if we were looking at something like a nebula, we would be able to filter out that light. That is now starting to change with switching to LEDs, which actually lean more towards the blue, and I'll get into that as well. By the way, you're going to see a few redundant slides. Just bear with me because they do tie together. So what we were talking about before with light scattering. So you have your point source lights, right? You have your street lights, home lights, fixtures on monuments. They reflect off the ground and they go into the clouds, right? Or into the open air. And even the open air has molecules in there. You know, we're breathing oxygen, we're breathing gases right now. There's water vapor in the atmosphere. So light scatters off of that. And when enough of that happens, you get a sky glow. On a particularly humid night, this is looking at Montclair State University. You'll get a closer look at that. That is what we call in astronomy a light dome, D-O-M-E. So it's like a dome over either a city, a football field. So every large light source creates a light dome. So it's a collective. You know, when there's a lot of lights, there's a city, there's a stadium, there's a mall. You know, all those lights collectively make a dome, and then the night sky gets degraded greatly in that general area. So if you point your telescope towards that area and you're not in that area, that also affects you as well. So again, this is a little bit closer look. This was from my friend's house in Clifton, who's just, you know, here's Watchung 1. It's a small mountain range, and Montclair State is right on top of that. But the whole campus creates this dome, and you can see it from miles and miles and miles away. And so that will affect all of your viewing. So what I was getting at before about LEDs and the bluer part of spectrum, we've been switching to more efficient LEDs, and yes, they are more efficient. What unfortunately lighting producers have done is instead of just saving electricity, they've turned up the brightness and intensity of these lights. So yes, you're not saving as much money as perhaps you might want, but it's also causing an extreme amount of light pollution compared to the sodium vapor that we were talking about before. This is 2012 over London. This is 2020. You can see in 2012 there's only a little bit of LED, right, in the central part of London here. But by another 8 years, it had spread out and covered all of London. And all of that light is now reflecting back, and the light pollution has gotten much worse. So there are different types of point sources. There are lights that point down. Those are the best kind. There are lights on buildings. There are spotlights pointing up. Those are the worst kind because they're spilling all of their light up into the sky, for instance. But so you can see this whole area, the city is creating this whole light dome. And even, wildlife 50, 60 miles away, yes, even right here, we're affected by New York City's light dome. We can still see it in the east when a lot of times when we point our telescopes and you'll hear one observer say, oh, it's down in the muck. Well, it's too low, and New York City's light dome is still affecting it. We can't see that object until it gets higher in the sky, or it moves, it rotates further south and further away from New York City. But light pollution also affects other things too, animals, different wildlife, pets, um, migration patterns of birds. So they have there's all these other consequences to light pollution other than just astronomy. The other part, those of you that may have bought a new car recently, or I've noticed people who have bought a new car, you're driving down the road and all of a sudden, oh my God, I'm blinded. And no, they don't have their high beams on. They have LEDs. And these LEDs, and again, in of themselves are not necessarily a problem. They're focused, the beam is focused, and the intensity is much brighter. So a low beam is no longer a low beam. A low beam is a high beam. So that's one problem there. They also have put them into streetlights. People's homes, they put their spotlights out, right? And may have noticed that the light is a lot more intense. Matter of fact, it blinds you. And so what does that do to your eyes? When we get older, like even me, I suffer a little bit from night blindness now. So basically, my pupil, even when you're younger too, your pupil will close to reduce the amount of light coming into your eye. And then when you've passed the bright light the light from the car or a point source, then all of a sudden you have trouble seeing because your eyes now too closed down to take in the nighttime, to let more light in. And so it takes about 10-15 minutes for that pupil to open back up again. So again, glare and sky glow will do that as well. Your eyes, in Montclair State, for instance, when we do public telescope night with the North Jersey group, we have a lot of trouble visually there. We've gotten around that with electronic astronomy, which I'll get into later, but it's still not the same. So you have glare from lights. The local lights are turned off. Those lights that are down, you can see down here, those are 3 or 4 buildings down, and maybe a third of a mile away. So they're not really close to you. Again, all of that collectively causes a light dome. All right, so even the sky at night is not, if you had all of your lights off, if Montclair had a blackout and everything else was still on, you'd still have light pollution coming from New York City. Your eyes would still never experience true darkness. And that also affects what you see at the eyepiece. So there's something called dark adaptation. Over time, again, 20 minutes or so, that pupil will open up and will allow you to take more light in. Well, that's great when you're at the eyepiece or you're staring at the Milky Way. You all of a sudden, wow, am I seeing more detail than I was seeing 10 minutes ago? Yes, you are, because literally your pupil has opened up. It has dilated. It's basically the equivalent of going from a 4-inch telescope to a 10 or 12-inch telescope. You're increasing the aperture. You're letting more light in. It is the same thing. So dark adaptation is very important. But light pollution and most importantly, the glare from point source lights, you don't want to look at them. You want to look away from them. So the blue leaning LEDs, what we were talking about, makes the problem worse than those red sodium vapor lamps. So a lot of these LEDs, they spike off in the 450, 470 nanometers. So it's in the blue part of the spectrum. If you can barely see, the picture's not good, but the wavelength is shorter. A shorter wavelength makes it easier for it to scatter and bounce off of smaller particles. So something like a water molecule, so when humidity is high, your light pollution will be much more apparent with a blue-white LED bulb as opposed to a soft white bulb. So going back to Montclair State and this picture here, so this is the LA skyline here. This is from Griffith Observatory. And you can see this blue-white spotlight cutting into the atmosphere, into the haze. And the difference here, over here, this is still mostly, the softer color, and it's not as affected. Going back to the Montclair photo, you can see the building to the right has the same, there's two different bulbs here. There's one of a softer intensity and one of a blue-white intensity. You can see the brilliance of the blue one versus the one that's the softer white color. So that makes a difference. Your eyes will be affected more by those. If you're on the wrong side of the light, you're going to get blinded much worse from this source than that source. And again, most of Montclair State has now been converted over to blue-white type of lighting. So, as we said before, it's worse for light pollution above all the other colors. It's a quick way to make the Milky Way disappear and all your deep sky objects. So there are other parts of other problems of bluish white light at night. One of them is your computer screen, your phone screen. It actually affects human circadian rhythms. Makes it a little more difficult for you to fall asleep, and it reduces your melatonin levels. Over time, that could, and studies are going on right now, they're not completed yet, but we do know reduced melatonin is indicative of causing a higher incidence of certain cancers, for instance, breast cancer in women. So within the next 10 years, when these studies finally come out, we are expecting to see that overexposure to blue-white light at night. 3 o'clock in the afternoon, midday, not a problem. Our bodies have adjusted to bluer, whiter colors during the day, giving us signals to stay awake. When we get towards bedtime, the colors of sunset actually start to trigger that, trigger your body and tell it to start to shut down. Maybe not right away, but it's giving signals that it's time to go to bed. Whereas if we're sitting out in front of our televisions with the bluer screens, we are actually hurting ourselves. It's also true of animals and wildlife. It disrupts them as well. It's been known to make them sometimes erratic. But again, going back to astronomy, it's a good way to make your deep sky objects disappear. So here's a picture. I think this is close to Los Alamos. I'm not quite sure. But you can see over here the blue-white light in this locale right here. This might even be an Air Force base, right? Versus the sodium vapor in these towns in the distance over here. And look at the background sky, right? These people that live here will not be able to see the Milky Way. These people over here, well, they have light pollution, but they will be able to see maybe, the part of the Milky Way that's highest up, as opposed to being out here, in the middle of nowhere, where you can see the whole thing. So we discussed before, bluer lights are great for midday. If you switch to LEDs, which I have at home, try to use warmer ones. You can buy warmer ones. 3000 K and warmer, and lower numbers are warmer. Over 3000, 4000 and higher, and I'll show that chart again later on at the end. They're bluer and whiter. For instance, now your iPhone even comes with a feature built in. After sunset, it'll change the screen to get it more of a yellow color. Matter of fact, my computer does that too. Matter of fact, at 9 o'clock, it may actually start doing that on its own. I can disable it. You can disable it. But some of your devices already have that. If you don't, if you're looking for something like that, there's a app called f.lux, L-U-X, and you can download that to your phone or your computer, and you can tell it to start turning a warmer color at a certain time. So this is a town in Carter. This is an area like Carteret. This is heavily light polluted, by the way. A few years back, my friend's backyard, we were able to see the teapot and Sagittarius and Scorpius, even with the light pollution, because again, it's in the orange and red and not the blue. Um, So taking this picture again with redundancy. So if you're looking back at a distance, you can see stars appear about 10 to 15 degrees above the horizon down here, and quite a few of them, right? From these smaller light domes that are yellow red in nature. But this military base, you have to go 35 or more degrees, and you can see one or two stars, and you can tell the stars on this side of the picture are very sparse, even way up 50 degrees. There's a lot less of them than you see over here. So this one location is actually affecting a much larger area. So where it comes down to the what can you do part, right? And how can you, and it what can you do yourself in your own home, and what can maybe inspire your neighbors to do. So has anyone in the audience here noticed something about this picture, good, bad, or otherwise? So on the left here, you can see what's called a lot of light going all over the place, up, down, sideways, and the light down on the right-hand side is directed down towards the ground, kind of where it's needed, by the front of the house where people can walk in and out. But it's not spilling into the house next door and into their windows and whatnot. So that there's a term for that. It's called light trespass. Um, so light trespass is light from one house or one property, improperly controlled, right? Not pointed down, pointed sideways or whatever, and it crosses the boundary of your property, whether it goes into the street or someone else's property. That's even worse. It's called light trespass. So what does that do? Again, I have a couple of diagrams here. So you have the useful light pointing down, right? It gets reflected back up and all over the place. And then there's spill light. That's from the side. You can still see the bulb. And you're a person here, and you can see that you're on a different property, and it's hitting your house, your building, going into your living room and bedroom and all that. That is light trespass. Again here, someone with their improperly pointed spotlight at night goes onto the street, goes across the street, and wakes up their neighbor. But if you just position it downward and it's shielded, shielding is very important, and we'll get into that also. That will also make a difference. Again, there's another depiction here. The glare is blinding the person walking far away from the light. This is the area to be lit. This is another person's house. The light going in. It goes up into the sky. It's then reflected down by clouds and water vapor, the same process we were talking about before. So enough people do these collectively. We have the problem we have here in New Jersey. So the idea is to try to be a good neighbor. Light that shines into your neighbor's property and interfering with their ability to enjoy their own property is a type of light pollution. You got to make sure that the light is truly needed. Do you really need to have that light? Fully shielded and directed downward. If you remember before, there was an announcement about make sure your flashlights are pointed down, right? Because it's much more annoying to have that happen to you, and all of a sudden your pupils close down, and you can't see for a while. You're blinded. The same thing happens when a neighbor has their light on across the street, or even a motion sensor light, and a car drives by because it's improperly aimed, and that too is a form of light pollution. It's actually pretty bad. Again, warm color temperatures. Ideal is 2200 K, but you can get away with 3000 and down. And turn it off when you don't need it. At my home, my lights are off almost all the time. I can go outside, take the garbage out, do anything I want to do because I'm surrounded by light pollution. Um, so for me, that's one thing. But if you don't want to leave your lights on and waste electricity. It's also, increasing your carbon footprint, for instance, right? And we will get into home security in a bit too. So if you feel like you need to have lights on, pointed, having them shielded and pointed downward makes all the difference in the world. More than you know, and it's actually better for security reasons too. And we'll get into that. So most people, maybe people in this audience too, before I even got into astronomy many years ago, I didn't really know. I was guilty of, decorating my house at Christmas like the Griswolds back in the day, a long time ago, before I knew better. So guilty, right? I did it as well. But you want, whenever you're doing astronomy in your yard and you want to, you have people with spotlights, you may want to talk to them, but you want to do that in the most kind-mannered way possible. You don't want to make them feel like they're doing something horrible and wrong. So this is a picture of my house here. My lights are off. My neighbor's house can't really be seen here, and I did that on purpose because I don't want to advertise where they live. But at the time, they did everything the IDA says not to do. Blue, white lights all around their house, pointed upward, illuminating the trees, pointed sideways, spilling onto my property. You can see all of these houses in the background. They were illuminated just from the reflected light spilling all over the place from that house. Here's a photograph of the trees above their house, right? Again, it looks pretty, right? You can't blame them for wanting to do that. I've since spoken to them. I'm working on them. But at least now when I text them and say, hey, I'm going to go out my telescope tonight. Can you do me a favor and shut your lights off from 9 o'clock to, whatever. And they're good about it. Hopefully at some point I'll be able to get through the blue light at night being bad. Spiel with them, but little victories, little things at a time. So again, be kind to your neighbors. You don't want to start bad relationships with your neighbors over this, but you do want to be an example first. Do make the changes to your home first, and then let them see why you've done it. Invite them over for a stargazing session. Show them what objects look like through your telescope when the lights are off, as opposed to when the lights are on. Then they might be able to, understand. Hey, okay, I didn't understand that. It makes a big difference. Now, Hopakong, where I live, is actually pretty dark. This light dome in the background is pointed towards the Rockaway Mall. So that's my light pollution. But that's actually a Bortle 5 sky site. So it's actually one sky site brighter than we have here. So for New Jersey, it's actually not that bad. It just recently, where I live, has gotten really bad because of that. So again, type of lighting matters. Shielding, and temperature, and maybe even putting them on a timer. Have them turn off at 11 o'clock when you go to sleep at night, and that also makes a difference for security reasons as well. Again, bad, better, and best. Try to stay away from these globe bowls, lights that spill light all over the place. Again, better and the best is shielded. Why? The one way to really keep light trespass under control is to shield the lights so they're only pointed downward. If you can see the bulb, right now, for instance, my neighbor over there, where the observatory is, they're shining their light, or they have their spotlight on, and I can see the bulb, it's light trespass. If I can't see the bulb, then it most likely isn't. You can just see the light beams hitting the ground and illuminating the area that's supposed to be lit. So again, it's that you can see that here. The unshielded light spills all over the place. So even people here can see this bulb, but this light is shielded. So people over here, they're getting, light trespass from this particular unit here, but this one is not bothering them. So again, unshielded lights also in the light pollution community, we have a term for them. We call them glare bombs. Um, they also have a negative impact, not just on light pollution, but security. So in this image here, there's a light bulb that has not been covered at all, right? And the picture is taken. You can barely see, if you look really closely, the image of a person standing in the shadow. Now, if you cover that light, instantly you can see them. Now, that's the same effect with the camera, with what's going on here with your eyes. Your eye pupil has closed down to let less light in, so you can tolerate it. But the side effect is you can't see who's lurking in the shadows. If your lights were shielded, you'd be able to see who was lurking in the shadows. There's a big difference there. It's also true of cameras, by the way. Left and right, this person standing here in the light is actually in this picture as well. When I first saw this, it took me a good 10 minutes to find where this person was. You're going to be hard pressed. If you look really closely here, you can see a space between the tree and the light pole, and there is no space here. The person is standing right there between the light pole and the tree. And so you have to sit there and look at your screen for a good 10 minutes to really realize. Meanwhile, if that were a criminal, you've basically lit up the entire area advertising what's on your property, what you own. They can case the joint, and they've also seen where all the shadows are, where they can hide to avoid detection. So again, does extra light reduce crime? And again, it depends. Most crime occurs in well-lit urban areas. It's not a 1 or a 0. So basically, yes, there's crime in rural areas. But I'm saying what I'm trying to get at is the incidence of it is greater, right, per population. In Scotland, there was a study on blue light at night on crime reduction. Certain neighborhoods, they tried putting blue light there, and it did reduce the amount of crime, mostly because the area all around it was already well lit. So they went from the place where the blue light was to the non-blue light. Incidentally, it went down precipitously from the well-lit non-blue light area to the area that was not well lit. And most, when they, caught some of these criminals, they basically said, well, why didn't you hit these areas that were not lit that well? Well, we didn't quite feel as safe in these areas because they weren't well lit. So the criminals actually avoided the areas that were darker. So that is, food for thought. It's not every instance, there's always going to be outliers. But again, here's an example of a spotlight that's been aimed improperly and has too bright a color versus one that has been aimed properly and has a little bit redder color. So again, use downward pointing lights. Motion sensors are great. Just make sure the motion sensors are in an area that you really want them where they're needed. You don't want the light turning on if someone's walking across the street, for instance. On vacation, only use your lights on indoors. The mistake some people make is they turn their lights on outside to tell criminals, oh, we're home, we're home. Well, that's basically you've advertised all your things that they might want to steal and all your ways in and out of your house. And the lights haven't changed. They notice that. Where if you have timers in your house, and like where certain rooms will be on at certain times and other rooms will be on at other times, they'll say, oh, there's activity going on in there. We're not going to rob that house. So you don't want to, they're on to the trick of hey, everyone just turned their lights on for a week. Why, these lights haven't gone off? Um, these people are clearly not home. So here's the International Dark Sky Association guidelines. Um, so all light needs to have a clear purpose, useful light. Um, so basically, make sure it's actually needed, the area that needs to be lit. So is it a pathway? You're going in and out often. Does it have to be on all the time, right? Most likely the answer is no. Targeted light, downward facing, right? Lower light levels, it shouldn't be as bright as humanly possible, right? You want to make it, just so enough to see. Again, glare is your enemy. When you're walking towards a bright light, especially the moment you leave that area, that was like right now, for instance, right? Your eyes will take more time to correct themselves than maybe you're going to be in that area, and so you may trip and fall because you've looked at this bright light. Um, so again, um, light should only be used when it's useful. Have timers, motion detectors. Make sure the motion detectors are aimed properly, and the color temperature, warmer temperatures, not cooler temperatures. So again, here's a example of a well-lit neighborhood. Lights pointed down, not overly bright, not very high up either. You can see them kind of low. And there's the improper light. Light spills up, down, too bright, all over the place. You can see the bulbs here, right? And over here you can see they're shielded. So light fixtures are available. If you go to the darksky.org or the IDA site, they do have a whole list of and sites where you can buy fixtures that are night sky friendly. But basically the main thing, shielding, and then color temperature, 3000 K and warmer, as opposed to 4000 and up. 4000 and up, particularly when you get over 6,000, it's really bad. So again, you don't want to see the bulb. You want it shielded. We're not anti-lights. It's just do it the right way. Is the correct way to do it. So, and again, talk to your neighbors once you've started making your changes. Most folks don't understand that they're causing light pollution, or that they're part of a problem. They just figure, oh, it exists. I live near the airport, or I live near the city. Well, all those collective lights together are causing that light pollution. So when you go out and on top of that rock over there and look towards New York City, you'll see the light dome. I can see it from here right now. In fact, a matter of fact, but that's the collective amount. All those people, all their lights on. The city is on. The suburbs are on. Street lights are on, and it all makes the sky worse. So another thing, what can we do? Obviously, well, come here. So it's darker here, right? Get yourself here. We do public telescope nights every Saturday night from the beginning of April to the end of October, and one of the darkest sky sites in New Jersey. But we have to fight to keep it that way. That's very important because eventually, if we leave it unchecked, we'll lose this place too, to light pollution, and it'll happen sooner than we think. Another thing you could do if you want to go to a really dark sky site, you go to the Adirondacks, Cherry Springs are on the East Coast. You go to the West Coast, Arizona, West Texas, to really see a truly dark sky. It makes a difference. It really does. One of the things I do to get around at Montclair State, at my own house, is to get around some of the light pollution is do something called electronic assisted astronomy. I'll need about 25 minutes or so after I finish this talk, but I'll be at the observatory, the third one on the first row in. We'll be doing electronic assisted astronomy, where we actually pull light down over time with a camera and put it on a screen. So the camera is actually more sensitive than human eyes, and it will able to pull light down over. We see light as it hits our eyes. Cameras can, you set a 20, 30-second exposure. It collects that light for all that time. And so the object is brighter, in greater detail, and in color. Why is it in color? Why don't we see things in color? Because our night vision, our cones, really can only detect black and white. Our cones, our rods can detect black and white. Our cones um, are the ones that can detect color, and they need more light to be energized and turn on. A camera can do something. Basically, I tell people it's like being on the bridge of the Enterprise. Put it on screen. So that does help. It is not the only answer. So when I do this, this is the example of what we've done here in the observatory here at Jenny Jump. At Montclair State, it's not as good, but it's better than trying to do it with just an eyepiece where you see almost nothing. So you are fighting back a little bit in that way. Um, this is being recorded on YouTube, so if anyone wants to go back and look at the links, Dark Sky, formerly known as the International Dark Sky Association, um, Globe at Night. They'll talk about the light pollution increase and why blue light at night is bad. Again, darksky.org will put that data in front of you. Dark Sky also has a YouTube channel, much like we do here at UACNJ. I also linked the blue light at night street crime reduction link there as well. And there's a few other ones as well. Another one called Dark Ranger, which is very, very good, explains why more lighting is not always better than less lighting. So again, just to recap, make your property as night sky friendly as possible. Talk to your neighbors. Maybe they will talk to their neighbors. Invite them over for a stargazing session. That breaks the ice. You can talk to your legislators about your problems regarding LEDs. Not saying being anti-LED, but maybe try to properly shield these lights, because they're putting these lights out all over the place and they're not properly shielded. They're the wrong color. They're too high of an intensity. And perhaps join the International Dark Sky Association. Go to their website, darksky.org, and start or join a local chapter. There are a couple chapters here in New Jersey. And thank you very much. Very much. Any questions?
All right.
Yep.
So thank you, Mark.
Yep.
Thank you, everyone who's joined us here and online. So we are going to do a question and answer session now. First things first, though, because I know a couple of you snuck in the middle of the presentation here, and you do need to get the safety briefing. It is inescapable. So, if you need to use the bathroom here, it is the porta potty in the back to my left, your right. After the presentation, I will be over in the museum and gift shop area. So, if you need anything from there, do feel free to visit me in there. Like Mark said, each of those little sheds with the roll-off roof houses a telescope, and you can ask any of our volunteers questions, what they're viewing through their telescopes at night. And like we said, we are using our headlights when we leave, because even though it affects our night vision, we enjoy not getting run over. Please do not run us over. Please do not run other people over. That being said, do keep any flashlights we have for wandering around pointed towards the ground, because we don't need to unnecessarily blind people.
Red is better.
All right. So how the question and answer session is going to work for the people here. I am night blind. I've been staring at a screen. So you're going to raise your hand and kind of wave it about, because all of you are the shadow people from that one picture Mark had. For the online people, you can just type in chat. So I'm going to start this off. The first question online, which is, why haven't the dark sky maps been updated since 2015?
That's a very good question. I've honestly have inquired about that myself. What I understand right now, Dark Sky International is actually collecting data. So actually, there is if you go to darksky.org, they will send you to a um, there is an app for that. They're collecting data
Of
right
course,
now.
there's an app for
Of course,
that.
there is, where you can test the sky's brightness, download it to your phone and upload it to them. And basically, you encode your location and the conditions. Was it cloudy? Um, was it clear? Was it humid? Right. So that data is being compiled. I am too. I am also irked that it hasn't happened already.
Because I
But
need to update that map inside of all our member clubs and where they're located.
right, and I suspect that even this spot is no longer Bortle 4. It might be Bortle 4-5, and my own home could be Bortle 6. I greatly suspect that at this point. But we can hope. But I don't know if we're gonna be able um, turn it back the other direction. But maybe we can at least put the brakes on things.
All right. So, like I said, for any questions out here, raise your hand.
Yeah.
Oh, perfect. I have a couple right up front. So I saw your hand first.
Hi, my name is Mark, and the question is there, if you have a neighbor or somebody in our neighborhood that's doing light trespass, is
Right.
there any laws to protect?
In New Jersey, there isn't. I saw a bill proposed. I actually have it on this computer somewhere. I'd have to look and find it. But it has not been passed. It actually defines light trespass. No, I would say call your legislators, rather, and try to get them involved about that. Right now, matter of fact, there was a state of New Jersey a few months ago. They were doing a public comment section about converting everything to LEDs, and it was going around all the astronomy clubs, and basically a bunch of us got on there, put on basically everything this presentation was about. We basically spilled off onto this public comment, and we haven't heard anything back. I'm hoping it's not falling on deaf ears, but the more noise we make, um, definitely it's there. It's definitely more prevalent in the Southwest. It's definitely more prevalent in areas where the sky is more pristine. They try to preserve that. They may already say that our sky is too far gone to care, and that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to change their minds about that, right? So definitely make yourself known. The other way to do that is with your wallet and pocketbook. I'm not again. You go to the store. You go buy light bulbs. Purchase the warm bulbs, not the cool colored bulbs, because companies take note of what was purchased and what's popular. They keep what's popular, and what's not popular, they kind of let that expire. But yes, there is a bill. If you look on the state legislature website, and I have to go and find that, and I have it actually saved on this computer somewhere. But it never got passed. It's hanging out there since 2019. But it definitely defines what light trespass is. Exactly what we talked about here. If light that comes across one property line and goes on to another, that is light trespass. The same way as if you trespassed on your neighbor's property or they trespassed on your property. It's the same type of thing. Now, will anyone enforce it? That's the other question.
All right. Another point about people saying, "Oh, our sky is too far gone." It's not far gone. It's not like you've raised an entire forest where it will take years to even potentially get back to where it was. One good power out, and our sky's back to a lovely one.
Could be, yeah. I mean, depends on how far you're away from other light sources.
But
yeah.
Light is an immediate concern that you can change. So if enough people in a very light polluted town like Morristown decides we're going to get the proper light fixtures and put timers in. It's going to help.
Right.
And it's going to help not like years from now. It's going to help immediately. All right, so our next online question, actually, funnily enough, is the same. A similar question to what he had is there any legislation in the works about the headlight problems, which we said there isn't really. There's bills, so get in touch with your legislator. I nearly
Yeah.
said realtor, and that's the wrong person.
Headlight problems are actually even worse. When you try to look at state government and federal government, they don't even want to touch it. They have nothing in place right now. It's the wild, wild west. I remember 20 years ago or more, if you had improperly aimed lights on your car, you were pulled over. You were given a hundred and something dollar ticket. You were given a lecture. Now it seems like it's the wild west. It can do whatever you want. So if it were me, I am not against bright headlights when using your high beams. High beams are just that. They're high beams, right? You're coming down a dark road. There's no one around. Flick a switch, and you see, right?
There should be a visible difference between low beams and high beams, though.
Exactly.
Because at what point does more light cause more crashes than it prevents?
Oh, absolutely.
So our next question from out here, I believe I'm just going to destroy that and leave that there.
Hi, I'm Warren from Hope here.
Yeah.
And pretty much, hi, I'm Warren from Hope here, and I was just wondering, are you aware of any municipalities in New Jersey that have dealt with this problem and done any legislation?
I could say yes. But that's also IDA doesn't have that big a presence yet in New Jersey. You definitely know Arizona, Texas. There's parts of Pennsylvania around Cherry Springs State Park because it's known as an astronomy location. People go on vacations there. There is impetus there for that. So there are regulations there. I would propose that the people in this area would want to preserve UAC&J. Its sky. For instance, we were just talking about someone here was talking about, there's more light than before, and I'm like, well, that's Island Dragway. They just installed new bright LEDs, and they have a right to light up their area, but maybe the way they're lighting it is a problem, and it's affecting the observatory here. So yes, there needs locale makes a difference. We come here every Saturday to observe. We do public outreach, public programs. There's actually some science going on here too. So it's important to preserve this site. So that would be, again, form a chapter of the IDA, join the IDA, form a chapter, and then as the more people you have, the greater numbers you have, the more difference you can make, and people start listening.
Another question from our audience here. Oh, perfect.
It's more of a comment, but I learned a lot. And the most important thing is people don't want to see the sun when they're trying to sleep.
Right. Thank you.
Right. Our next online comment is, actually, you went over this in your presentation about ways to counteract the blue on the computer screens.
Yes.
Where there's an app for that.
There is. Well, hold on a second. Let me see. So we're gonna wait 1 minute. You're gonna literally wait 1 minute here because it's 8:59, and on my computer, you'll see what happens at 9 o'clock.
Does it work on the presentation screen, or is it only on the computer screen?
Let's see what happens. It should work on the presentation screen.
I mean, you could always kind of turn your computer this towards me, not towards the.
Right.
Don't blind the public.
Yeah, we won't.
Blind me because I'm already night blind.
Okay, so where are we?
While he's looking for
Yeah.
that, I'm going to realize my questions ran away. Luckily, I have some of
Not
them
a problem.
memorized.
Let's see if it starts happening.
Where the next question was, is there a specific type of light color that are always available for the garden lights?
You have to look for them. Again, you want 3000 K and down. So you would have to you would have to type in warm garden lights, and you oftentimes you go through Amazon and you filter through all the blue because they're immediately going to show you all the bright blue ones, and you just have to filter through them till you find what you're looking for.
A lot of them,
Yeah.
like if you go to the store or like a Walmart, it'll say on the side of the box like warm white, cool white.
Right.
There are also the ones with the fun remote where you can cycle through and choose a warm or a cool white.
It's starting to happen. Yeah, you can see it happens gradually here. It starts to get more yellow tinged. It's starting to happen. So
All right, let me just. Was there another question out here? Bueller? I got a lot of cricket sounds.
oh yeah, plenty of crickets.
All right. The next question was, are you going to have your neighbors switch to red and then look really ominous to the rest of the community?
They do that at Halloween actually, and I comment how nice it looks when it does happen. It does make a huge difference. And yeah, I didn't necessarily say that before, but if you've noticed, all the astronomers walk around with red flashlights, and why is that? Oh, that longer wavelength. Oh, there it goes. Look at that. The screen is changing color now. It slowly goes. It does its own sunset. So that longer wavelength is less harsh on the eyes, and doesn't trigger your pupil to close back down as much. Now, if you look directly at it, like like a point source, that's also not good, but it's nowhere near as bad as the white light or blue light. So yeah, red lights. If you have a red light, you can buy them. They are awesome. They are your friend, especially for the night. It's the color that reduces your night vision the least amount. But yeah,
Right.
it's definitely dimmed. Look at that. It's definitely a warmer color now.
Sweet. I wasn't sure whether it would show up on the projector or not.
Yeah.
So for our online chat, I'm going to ask if you have any last minute questions online, do get those in. And I always put that now while I still have a couple questions because they have the little bit of stream delay. So by the time I say it, by the time they see it, we're already a few minutes into the future. Yay, time travel. Was there another question out here? And keep in mind, again, I'm night blind, so you kind of have to wave about your arms like you don't care because I'm a T-Rex. Right, so our last online question was, do we at the observatory have safety lights, being as we are a dark sky site? And I know the answer. Does Mark know the answer?
Well, depends on the light that we use. I mean, at what time? We do have lights that are improper spotlights, and we also have a lot of red lights in the observatory. So the answer is yes and no, depending on what you're doing.
So we do have periodic red lights. For example, there's one illuminating the porta potty. It's not properly shielded, as Mark pointed out, but it is red. And generally, in each of the observatories, we do have a red light just to aid in not tripping over anything and being able to safely see through the telescopes. We do have a number of our doorways also illuminated in red, just so again, you know where the entrance and exit is. As far as emergency safety lights, yes, we actually do have one. We generally don't have that on because it is the sun. And we have that just in case, like, God forbid something happens, we can turn on the sun and get whatever situation handled, like whether someone needs emergency medical care or we need to clean up and get out of here now because NTM, a tornado coming. I've yet to seen one here. So we're good on that front though.
All right. But
Actually, you've seen the sun.
yes. Yeah, we had that. We had that in the telescope last week. Matter of fact, we with a solar filter.
No, I mean like the sun on the side of we
Oh,
installed
that's
on the side of the
the
building.
evil sun. Yes, no, we the one on the side of it. I have seen that. Yeah, you don't want to be on the wrong side of that.
It's bright, but it's again we use it only when we really need people to either clear out or there's an emergency. All right, any last minute questions from you guys? I'm just gonna check because, like I said, my handheld internet decided not to continue being handheld internet. So looks like that actually wraps it up for our questions. I want to thank you again. Oh, wave your hand because I'm not seeing you. Oh, there you are.
What is the price of like everything, like to fix your lights and stuff? Is it expensive?
No different than getting a similar light fixture at a hardware store. Depending on the source where you get them from. I've seen. Let me get.
Yeah, that really depends on the source and your budget because there are lights that you can get that, you know, you can get shades and whatnot for them at probably Walmart.
Right.
And then there are people who are going to get them from I don't know the expensive stores. I don't live in that tax bracket.
Oh, neither do I. Like Fortune offer or something like that. Yeah. Depending on where you get them, right? I've seen these fixtures on Amazon go anywhere from $49 to $149, depending on who's getting them. And one doesn't look much different from the other. So shopping around, they may not even be advertised as night sky friendly. Again, the bulb has to be up inside here and not seen. That's basically what you're looking for.
And also the fun thing is, you don't have to do it all at once. You can say, "Hey, this year I'm taking care of the worst light," and then next year you take care of the second worst light,
Right?
And so on and so forth. So you don't have to be all like lump sum, because there's not many of us who can do that nowadays.
No, that's for sure. That's for sure. But I mean, honestly, back in the old days at Montclair State, Mary Lou West and I, we had this contraption before they put the new lights in, where we would actually get a cardboard box and a meter stick, and we would sit them on top of the light and during telescope night, so it wouldn't spill out all over the place. And then when we were done, we'd take it off, and it would go back to normal. So you can get creative in the meantime, So there's other ways to get around that.
As long as you're also mindful of, if you do that to a public fixture, there may be repercussions. So just be mindful. Maybe if you're going to be like, "Hey, I'm going to be here for a while doing a public program," you let your state park know, "Hey, I'm going to put a temporary light cover over the lights." The state parks normally don't have that problem because they're dawn to dusk. Anyhow, again, I want to thank you, Mark, for a great presentation. I want to thank everyone who has joined us, not only here, but online. Do check us out on our website, uacnj.org, for all that information you may crave, and have a good night.
Thanks, everybody.